Hey guys, it's Drummond. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today's video, I wanted to talk about the Me Too movement. Since my different kind of coming out story has been one of my most popular YouTube videos on my channel, I kind of wanted to touch base with you guys and kind of talk to you guys about some of the reactions I've gotten from that video and how touched I am that so many of you guys have felt safe enough to share your stories on my channel. If you haven't already, make sure you go check that video out and share some love, not just to me, but also all the other people that have opened up and shared their stories. When it comes to opening up and sharing our stories, it is definitely a huge step for anyone who has been in that situation in life, just because you have to come to terms and accept the fact that it's happened. And I think that it's a really important step when it comes to the healing process as well. I know that when I was 5 years old, my life changed forever. And honestly, as much as I would like to go back and change my past so that that part of my life could be erased, I feel extremely honored that me sharing my story has opened up a space for others to kind of share their story and kind of create a community. I know that when it came to me coming to terms with the fact that I had been molested, I was at a Young Life camp and one of the speakers actually shared his story and talked about how when he was a kid, he had actually been molested by someone. And he was actually the first person that I opened up to about what had happened to me when I was 5 years old with my uncle. And it was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders because he was the first person that I was able to tell and kind of speak to. We actually became pen pals back in the day when you still wrote letters to each other. He would write me at least once a month. He was a Christian singer, so he was always on the road with Young Life and other Christian groups. It was nice to kind of have someone that I could share my story with, and at that time I still hadn't come out to my mom about what had happened to me when I was a kid. I was still very much in the closet when it came to me being gay because I was still really lost in trying to figure out what it meant to be gay and if it was a sin and if it was something that I could accept about myself. A lot of people commented underneath my videos saying that I needed to make sure that I reported my uncle for what he did because they were afraid that he might be doing it to other people. I actually did know that he had other victims other than me and my mother. But when it came to me being a 5-year-old, that wasn't really something that was on my mind. I wasn't really thinking about other people at that time. I was kind of just thinking about how scared I was, and honestly, at that time, I thought that I was going to hell for what had happened. So as a 5-year-old, it wasn't something that was on my mind. Now that I am 31 years old, I definitely wish I had told my family sooner. And to my knowledge, my uncle got what was coming to him. Someone else he did stuff to actually did report him, so he did get in trouble for what he had done. I really want to take this time to say thank you to everyone that reached out and gave words of encouragement after they watched my video, because honestly, that really meant a lot to me. What happened to me that day when I was 5 years old still affects me now while I'm well into my 30s. And honestly, I don't know if I will ever get to a point where it's not something that is in the back of my mind. I never thought that my YouTube video would touch so many people. I'm very thankful that I did make that video. It was extremely hard for me at the time, and honestly, it's still something that is hard for me to speak about right now just because it did change who I was. But I'm trying to make the most of my life and do whatever I can to turn it into a positive. One thing that has happened since I've made that video is I've kind of noticed that there are some people out there who kind of shame people for sharing their story. I've got all the comments set to where I have to approve every comment before it shows up under my video, but I have had some really hateful messages, and now I kind of know what it feels like for people who have been in a situation where they've been raped or molested and felt like they couldn't share their story just because there are people out there that kind of shame you for standing up for yourself, and it's really sad. I know that some people have commented under the video saying that there's no way that I could have gone through that experience as a 5-year-old and still be as happy as I am today. And honestly, my response to those types of comments is, it is something that I struggle with on a regular basis, but I try to take the positive route and I try to be the best person that I can be. It's honestly crazy sometimes how hard it is to kind of erase those types of memories from your mind. I know that when it comes to me being sexual with any of my boyfriends, it's been a struggle. It's something that I've had to kind of push to the back of my mind. There has been times where my boyfriends have gotten a little too rough, and it kind of sends me into a shocked state just because those feelings that I had deep down that I was trying to suppress have definitely come back up to the surface, and I've had to kind of push people off of me and kind of just retreat just to kind of pull myself back. The thoughts definitely go through my head, wondering what I would be like if I hadn't had to live through that experience. I wonder if some of my insecurities that I've developed would still be there, just because I know that when it came to me having relationships with adult men, I kind of pushed those aside and kind of gravitated towards women. I know that for me, it was hard for me to have a relationship with my dad or my granddad or any of my other uncles that didn't do that to me, just because I kind of felt betrayed by adults at the time and I didn't really feel safe with them. I know I kind of retreated into my imagination as a child just because I didn't want to face the reality of what had happened to me. I know that my relationships with my pets and the girls that I met through school were kind of what kept me together at the time. I remember being in elementary school and hearing the boys talk about the things that they wanted to do with the girls. And honestly, when boys are young, that's kind of what they want to talk about. They want to talk about what they would do to girls. And for me, that was kind of a turnoff. I didn't want to be friends with them just because the way that they talked about girls was kind of how I felt like my uncle viewed me as a kid. There have been so many people that have reached out to me after I told my story and told me that I was brave for sharing it. But honestly, for me, I feel like I'm just getting by. I'm doing whatever it takes to move on to the next day. And it doesn't really feel like bravery to me. It kind of just feels like it's something that I have to do. I feel like I kind of have the choice of allowing what happened to me when I was 5 to take over and control my life, or I can fight and push it out. There's so many people out there that think it's just been one moment in time and that I shouldn't allow it to affect the way that I move through life. But when you are 5 years old and something like that happens, it really does kind of mold the way that you view the world. And there's so many people that share their stories that it happened way more than once and with more than one person. And I just feel horrible that there are people out there that have had to go through things like that, just because I know how hard it's been for me to kind of move past that and continue to move on in life. I honestly can't understand why someone would ever feel like it was okay to shame someone for sharing their story. I know that there have been plenty of people who said this person was asking for it. Look at the pictures that they post. Look at the way they dress. And my honest response to that is no one on this earth asks to be molested. No one on earth asks to be raped. So for those people who make those types of comments, you really need to check yourself and put yourself in those people's shoes, because that one moment does change the way that you view the world and the way that you interact with people. For me in particular, it's really important for me to be able to feel like I have my life under my control, because in that situation, everything was out of my control. And honestly, I felt like I was just kind of trapped there, and I don't like that feeling. And it's something that I try to avoid at all costs. Another thing that I noticed after posting my video is that there are a lot of guys out there who have been taken advantage of, molested, or raped that haven't shared their stories with the world yet. A lot of times we hear about the women who have been in those situations, and we've got to get to the point where it is okay for a guy to share his story. Honestly, that event has really affected my mental health, even as an adult. And I feel like there's a lot of men out there that are suffering with mental health issues because of things that happened to them as children, and they aren't in a position where they feel comfortable sharing that or talking about the things that they're going through in their mind, just because the way that society puts it is guys are supposed to be strong. Guys are not allowed to share feelings. And honestly, I feel like that puts men in a position where they can't tell the world what they've gone through. And I think that affects a lot of people in a very negative way. I know that there have been mountains that I have had to overcome to get to where I am today, to where I am able to talk about it and share my story with people. So I think it's really important that we kind of put a focus on the fact that there are guys out there that have gone through similar things that I did, and they do need our help. But I hope you guys are doing well, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I love talking to you guys. I love hearing your stories, and hopefully we can get to a point where people can share their stories and not feel ashamed of what happened to them, because honestly, we were victims in those situations. We shouldn't be further victimized for sharing our stories. But that's all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys are having a great week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.